Starting this off odd. What's on my screen?
The hell did you... Oh, what the fuck are you doing? What... Rep... What am I looking at?
If I shit,
If you shit.
peel back the layers,
Oh my Jesus Christ. You've just shown Jerry Lawler's true form. And it somehow fits with the music and I hate it.
for a sec, he kind of looks like Alex Ross Superman.
You're not wrong. You are definitely not wrong. This is a weird music video.
Maybe we just need another face.
Oh, that's a terrifying thought. Oh, god damn it.
He fits.
Yes, but you've ruined that face for me.
It's the good one, though.
I know it's the good one, but it's still ruined for me, because I can't unsee the bad one.
Hello, Ivan.
Oh, Ivan. You're having way too much fun with this.
If I wanted to have fun, I could...
I don't like that start of that sentence. Oh, Christ.
I think this is how I made Ghost Chocoboy.
Probably. Oh god, what have you done to his hair?
I don't know.
What did you do? You turned his hair into like a fucking roll.
But, speaking of Chocoboy, there we go.
Oh yeah. Chocoboy just rested right underneath us.
Now,
The flaws of clicking on a 10-hour video rather than a playlist of songs.
yep. I don't know, this is my first time doing something like this. It's almost like we should have had practice before this. Or at least I should.
You were busy, I got sick.
Just a bunch of shit in general.
What matters is that we're here now.
What matters is I should have had more assets ready to go.
Yes, that too. Oh, Vasher.
Hello, Asher, and hello, Ivan. I forget if I said that already, but just in case I didn't.
You did, don't worry.
And also, thank you for the host. I don't think anything popped up for that, even though I
It
had
didn't,
the
because you
alert
were on the other scene.
That is true. Let's fire it again.
You what?
Okay. Oh, and it even replays in the chat. That's interesting.
Let's get the Streamlabs.
I probably should get the Streamlabs bot in my channel. At least then if I miss anything, I can just read it out of chat. Not gonna help me during the marathon, but...
Right, of course.
Hello, Kizar. You have fun with your GCWs, you pervert.
Look, Izar. Alright.
Should have dusted off my microphone before this. It's just disgusting.
I'm like half the volume. Maybe if I go down like this.
Wait, like half of like quieter than me or louder than me? Because like I'm listening and I'm also like sick as shit and probably deaf in one ear, but no, so Rep hasn't said anything in a bit. Oh, you were very quiet. Very, very quiet.
Let's see then.
You were even quieter. I feel like you were going in the wrong direction. Come back.
Is this better?
Much better.
I think Streamlabs might have been using my Rift headset for audio. Now I just have it set back to the Snowball.
Oh, okay. That would explain that. Interesting.
The upside and the downside. Oh, I suppose not actually an upside. Whatever. I gotta fix that shit up soon anyway.
True. Also, hello, Crowley.
Oh, Crowley. So, I don't know how to start this.
Okay, well, we're starting with Game of the Year, yes?
Oh yeah, definitely. Start with the best of this year, and then it's just all downhill slog.
Game of the Decade's a downhill slog.
Just gonna be remembering things we played like 5 years ago, and then we'll feel old. Or I will, at least.
What are you talking about? I always feel old. Because I'm the youngest.
Hell yeah, Ivan. But yeah, so... Resident Evil 2?
That is a game, yes.
Maybe it's not on my list, I just wanted to know your opinion in general.
My opinion in general?
I don't know.
But my idea was that we would kind of go off our list, explain our reasoning why it's there, and then
Well,
decide a best of the year for ourselves.
I'll start that then. So, my list, I should I'll list it all together in a sec. My games of the year for this year are Resident Evil 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, The Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, and Pokemon Sword and Shield, with an honorable mention going to Life is Strange 2. Life is Strange 2 mainly just because I didn't play it enough to comfortably list it. I only got up to about episode 3, maybe halfway through 2. It's something I definitely want to come back to, maybe even stream it. Hello, Metro Man 316. But otherwise, Resident Evil 2's on top because Capcom fucking rallied back from Resident Evil 6 with Resident Evil 7 a couple years ago. Which, honestly, is something I should probably put on my decade list because it's something I forgot about. I'm a dummy. It's just something I kind of forgot about, too. But they took the engine from that and remade the best game in the franchise. It's something I've been hoping
I apologize on what you're about to witness!
Thank you for the follow-up, by the way, my dude. It's something I've been hoping for since they started making RE1 again. And that absolutely did not disappoint. The only ways I think it does are ways just that I am used to zombie things being. like the headshots. I wish that were a thing, just because, like I said, I'm used to zombies being, if you can shoot them in the head, they're dead. So, yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3. It is the second of, I think at this point, 3 or 4 games I had this year where it was something I have been waiting for years, up to a decade. And I finally got to play it this year, which is pretty fucking cool. And it wasn't even that bad. The only issues I have with it are, there aren't enough Final Fantasy characters, which Remind is set to take care of. But, that's also the reason it's not on my top. And just, there are parts that seemed a little underdone for the game being in development so long. Outer Worlds, I'm still making my way through, but I'm fairly confident in saying it's a very good game, one of my tops of the year, because it's Obsidian doing what they do well. Hello, Jeremy. Like, it's New Vegas in space, made by the actual Fallout creators. Death Stranding, it's a fucking interesting concept. It's a different way to play a game. And it's a story that no one else on the list or in a lot of gaming has ever come close to touching. That's not saying it's a great story or even, sensible? I don't know. But it's interesting. It's more than I can say for, any given reality first-person shooter kind of game. And Sword and Shield, I haven't done the post-game stuff, mind you, but it changes up enough things in the Pokemon series that are notable that it popped me a bit. I liked it. And let me do a little bit of text real quick, just to get something up there.
Yeah, maybe we should have prepared actual assets and winners and shit for people. Because you're just gonna straight up name all of them at the top there?
I'm gonna move it down into the blank space, but yeah.
Oh, okay. You're not gonna have room when we get to our decade stuff. I suppose then I should send you my list for your sanity's sake. Oh god, you're also doing honorable mentions. You're definitely not gonna fit those in on our decade stuff.
Well, then I'll just X that out. Because I was also just remembering we have a crap load of honorable mentions.
Yeah, we do. We have plenty to talk about when it comes to the decade.
Nope, I don't want to do that.
I mean, you could do that if you really wanted to. Just have it tilted on the side and give everyone a headache.
You want me to just post these all at once and let you do your explanation in the meantime?
I mean... I suppose if you just copy-paste it in there, it's all going to be in there right away, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I could do it slower.
Let me talk about it first, and then you can pop them up on screen.
Okay.
So for my game of the year, right away, I'm just going to go through the honorable mentions, because I only have 2, and the only reason they're honorable mentions because they're both the same reason. Luigi Mansion 3 is an honorable mention because I haven't, I gotta mute my stream because now I'm talking over myself and it's destroying me. Luigi's Mansion 3 and the Medieval remake, both games I haven't played enough of myself to get a feel for and to know much about to put them on any sort of Game of the Year list. So they're just going to be my honorable mentions, but they're both pretty good so far. I haven't actually even touched Medieval, but I have seen things about it and know that it's a very faithful remake and that it's a pretty fucking great game. I just don't know enough about myself to put it on my own list. For Game of the Year, we got a few here. We got Ring Fit Adventure, River City Girls, Crash Team Racing, Nitro Field, Descenders, Pokemon Shield, Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey, and Devil May Cry 5. I like how I gave you the list for you to just copy paste it, and you're not just gonna type it all out anyways.
No, fucking. Just talk.
Okay. Ring Fit Adventure, I am really enjoying. It's not only helping me kind of actually be active and stay somewhat fit in life, but it's honestly a very fun and charming game if you ever play it. It's very adaptive. It always gives you very good advice on how to live life very healthfully. Healthfully? Sure, that's a word now. The only drawbacks that I personally have with it is that the game doesn't. I'm only in World 3, mind you, but I've already seen what feels like kind of copy-pasted world layouts. But that really doesn't matter when the end goal of a game is a fitness game and to help you stay fit. So, River City Girls, obviously, side-scrolling beat-em-up game. You know, River City Ransom, if you played it, it's the same thing. You capitalize the I in River City Girls, by the way. It's very fun. It's got a lot of modern personality with it. The only drawback I have with it is that if you haven't seen the secret ending of it, it kind of takes away all of. I won't spoil it here, but it takes away a lot of the motivation for playing the game in general. So its existence kind of drags the game back a lot. Then obviously there's Crash Team Racing Nitro Field. If you've seen me stream it, you know I gushed all the fucking time about it. I played it just about every day, all day. It's got so much charm. It's a faithful recreation. Has the adventure mode from Crash Team Racing. Has all the tracks from both Crash Team Racing and Crash Nitro Kart. And it's still adding new content every month with their events and stuff.
We just
And
about
then
needed
Activision
one of
fucked
those
it all up.
wet poncho things.
Pretty much. It's still a very fun game. It controls beautifully. It's still a fantastic game, and I recommend anyone play it. Then there's Descenders, a randomly generated downhill biking game that I don't know where the hell it came from, but it is a very, very chill, very fun game. It's got a nice chill soundtrack. It's just a very nice game to kind of chill and play. It's not an easy game, mind you, but if you take it slow, you usually are fine. There's a lot of things you can unlock, a lot of different, I don't want to say different things you can do, because in reality you're just going downhill and surviving, but you can play it however you want. You can stick to the track, you can just go straight down through fucking hillsides and shit. It's a great time. I highly recommend anyone play it. It's pretty cheap. I think it's like $20 on Steam. It's a very nice, small, little relaxing game.
It might be even less right now with the
With the winter sale going on. Yeah, I can actually check right now.
And the way I justify Hitman is that it does enough different that I'm going to put it on there. And my list is also, mind you, list based on games I've played to some extent. Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, I've played a significant portion of. Life is Strange 2, I played at least enough to count it. But I wouldn't put on a game I didn't play, like, say, the new Call of Duty.
Alright, right now Descenders is $15 US dollars anyways. Ivan says it's $17.39 in Canada. That's a good deal. I highly recommend you pick up that game.
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon Shield, obviously I will fully admit I haven't finished the game, but I do know how it ends. I know a good chunk of the story, and I've played through probably about halfway through the game now, I think, actually. I might be wrong about that, but I'm having a great time. I know a lot of people fucking got all fucking up in their ass about not every Pokemon being in the game, but it honestly doesn't bother me because the way this game handles it, I would love to see wild areas return to whatever next Pokemon game they're going to be doing.
Those people
'Cause-
also apparently didn't hear of a couple games called Sun and Moon that also excised Pokemon from the Pokédex.
Mm-hmm. This game just wasn't. This
No
game is
one
fun.
game has ever had the entire Pokédex catchable. There were several games where you needed to trade in from a different game.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Now, mind you, this game has it so those Pokemon aren't even in the code, but that also doesn't matter, to me at least.
I also just don't care because I prefer having more new Pokemon to catch. And whatever. I don't care about old Pokemon not being there. I get everyone has their favorites, and if your favorite's not in the new game, that does suck. I get that feeling. But in the end, I prioritize new Pokemon over old Pokemon, which Pokemon is kind of a franchise that probably doesn't have a whole lot until it needs a full-ass fucking reboot anyways, so enjoy the traditional series while it lasts.
I can't wait for Pokemon Zexal.
Oh god. And then my next game, Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. It's a 3DS remake of the DS game Bowser's Inside Story. It's a remake. It's very fun. I enjoy Bowser's Inside Story, so having it again with kind of better looking graphics. Although Bowser's Inside, this one like adds in like 3D graphics for some of the larger scale scenes, and while they don't look bad, they kind of clash with the overall 2D aesthetic that the rest of the game goes for. I don't know, it's weird to me. And then, of course, it has the added on side story of Bowser Jr.'s Journey, which is Bowser Jr. and the rest of the Koopalings, whatever they're doing during the story of Bowser's Inside Story. Which is cool. Stories kind of cool. It gives the Koopalings actual personalities rather than them just being characters that exist for Mario to stomp on. So that's pretty neat. But the actual playstyle is an auto battler, so if you're into that, it can be fun, but it's overall, if you're not into that, it's not a very great time. And then probably easily honestly my favorite game on this list, Devil May Cry 5. Oh my fucking god. When I heard Devil May Cry 5 was going back to kind of the traditional ways of playing after what DMC was, I was very excited. I was very happy to see what this game was going to become. Nier's theme is a fucking banger, and it's still one of my favorite songs to listen to. Devil May Cry 5 is a very great game, and honestly a very good game for anyone to play because it has the option for you to catch up if you care about the story, which I'll be 100% honest, story isn't all that gripping in Devil May Cry, but
I was just saying,
you do. It's not a game known for its great story. It's known for its action.
As somebody whose experience with Devil May Cry has been tangential at best, a lot of the stuff I saw for DMC5, I was like, oh, alright. I'll take a look at that sometime. And there were a couple times during this year where I was like, maybe I'll get it. And next
it is
time
a
I do see
game
it
that
on
definitely encourages new players because it has this whole ass assist mode if you can't figure out the combat yourself, so it'll like help you either. I don't know how it works, I haven't tried it out for myself, but I know it's definitely a game that wants you to play it no matter who you are.
Right.
And like I said, if you want to catch up on the story in the game itself or even just on YouTube, I think it's on Capcom's YouTube, they have the story for Devil May Cry so far between 1, 2, 3, and 4, which, spoiler alert, there's not a whole lot going on in 1, 2, or... and 1 and 2 really don't have a whole lot, especially in 2, because 2 was the master child of the series, so we don't talk about 2 ever. But yeah, Devil May Cry 5 is a very great game. It's got a great story going through the action. There's 3 completely different playstyles with 3 different characters. You have so much fun just kind of learning combos, learning how to do shit, unlocking new things, learning how to implement that new shit, and it's easily, like, if I had to pick a top game, Devil May Cry 5 is easily that top one for me.
For me, it's an order on the list where I have it. It's not an order here. My top game would be RE2. Just, you improved a game that was already really fucking good. The Zapper system might not have been the best for 98, but yeah. I wish they'd implemented something like it a little bit more for this one, but I can't really complain.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I don't know how to word that.
It's fair.
Yeah, so then, you got anything else to say? I don't think I do.
Play Devil May Cry 5. That's what I'm ending on for that category.
Alright. Send me your nominations for the next list.
What's our next list?
Worst.
You didn't tell me the worst of the year.
Well, I have it best, worst, most disappointing for this year. And
Okay,
then
well,
that's
a very short list for me.
For the next one. Same for me, it's only 4 games.
Mine's only 3.
Behold, a very slight scene change.
Oh man. Can't really comment on games a year, I don't think. I played 10 games this year.
I definitely get that.
Every game that has loot boxes. I don't think any game that I have on that list has loot boxes. Oh, no. Yeah, no, none of the games that I play on there have loot boxes. There's, obviously, Crash Team Racing has microtransactions, but outside of that, everything else... Oh yeah, Devil May Cry 5 also has microtransactions. God damn it, Capcom. But grinding in Devil May Cry 5 is not a hard thing to do, trust me. That is one thing I was kind of worried about, is that there were definitely a few years, like, I don't remember if it was this year or last year, where I just fell out of playing games in general. Like, I just couldn't play video games anymore.
You what?
But it was...
Oh shit.
Oh, fuck.
Fucking thank you, Hitman, for the 500 Dead Snowman bits. You lovely boy.
Kitty.
Hopefully you've had the good last couple of days.
I got a kitty. I had to check, make sure Satan was still asleep.
There we go. Okay, so my worst games list, like I said, it's not particularly long. It is Anthem, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, Borderlands 3, and WWE 2K20.
Anthem did come out this year. Fucking hell.
Uh-huh. Very early on. But
And
it
it's
did come out
already
this year.
almost dead.
Shit, that game was dead, like,
On arrival.
basically.
Very much dead on arrival.
I didn't play all that much of Anthem because I was working off of a fucking Origin Access sub.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to play it that long to know the issues it has. The game, like, my computer's not totally up to date, but it's fairly decent. It can still hold up, and it only really struggles in the face of super intensive games. And Anthem made my boy chug.
Sounds about right.
The idea of it is fun to me. I'm an Iron Man mark, and running around in big iron suits, I like the idea. It's something that if they redid it, if they did due diligence on, if they make it so much better, if they had a single player mode, I'd be down for that. But as it stands, as it stood when I tried it, it just felt unfun to play. It was a big grind. Battle for the Grid. Like, it's a perfectly decent fighter. It's just they barely update it, and when they do, it's like their season pass only covered about like 3 fighters, and they've released like twice that much so far.
They have officially finished off their second season of characters with Daishi.
The game didn't have a matchmaking system at first, so you basically had to hope you matched up with people, and it took them almost like 3-4 months to get one.
It took them about half a year.
Yeah. Now, honestly, its place on this list might be more to my own bias because I bought it twice.
It's definitely kind of here based more so on our disappointment of it compared to the actual game itself.
True. Worst and biggest disappointment are usually fairly malleable, permeable.
But we can get further on into why it disappointed us when we get to disappointments.
Yeah. Borderlands 3. Again, it's not necessarily bad. Hello, Sky. It's not bad, but it's Borderlands 2. It's 7 years later, but it's Borderlands 2. Yeah, Ivan has that perfect. It's a Borderlands 2 reskin. The graphics are marginally better. Some of the classes are fun, but it's the same thing. This was not a game worth making 7 years later with basically the same sort of humor. And 2K20, my issues with that could... My issues with that are so numerous, I can't even think of a proper idiom.
This is why the stream is titled "Talk for Several Hours."
But yes, I hold no ill will toward visual concepts because they got dealt a shit hand. They had to found a new studio because 2K wouldn't keep Yuxon. Not that we necessarily wanted to keep Yuxon. For years, I've thought the games would get better when they left, but I also thought that, they would have prepared for that. And just releasing that game in the state it was in October, it's irresponsible by WWE and 2K. And yeah, Crowley's on the money here. If this happens again next year, then there's no coming back. I want the games to do well. I want to be able to confidently say, hey, I'm going to pre-order 2K21 next year. But as far as I'm concerned, if I say that now, I will be rightly laughed out of any room I'm in.
Yeah.
And with that, let's set this up. Your worst games of the year.
Prepare for some familiar names, everyone. You want me to just go off of them again, or?
Sure. Battle for Grid.
Battle for the Power Rangers, Battle for the Grid, Borderlands 3, and Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, keep in mind, I don't think
get stupid with typing.
I don't know. I also love my worst games of... Oh, you fixed it. Never mind.
Yeah, fuck you.
Battle for the Grid, like Rep said, it's very lacking in what it asks for. 3 characters per season pass is fucking abysmal.
Sky's right. Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, I believe, November of last year.
Well, then take it off the list, because fuck. and then those are my only 2 games. I thought it came out this year. Oh, I know, that's right. It was November of last year. Fuck me. October. Never mind. I'm even dumber. Whatever. I can talk about that later then. Either way then, I just got 2. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid and Borderlands 3. Battle for the Grid is more so that it's just lacking in every sense of what it asks for. Like I said, it was barely functioning when first released. There was no peer-to-peer. You couldn't play with your friends directly. You had to either do a fucking screen share of some form of whatever. And it didn't even have any story mode that came out on launch when I'm pretty sure it promised it. But then story mode came out and it was just the Shattered Grid comic, just with matches that you could play. Which at first you couldn't play as Time Force Pink, so there was even missing characters from it. And then, as the year went on, yeah, they kept adding characters, but they only added characters for free once, and that was as an apology for the shitty release. With the myriad of technical problems that still haunt this game when it comes to releasing things. Like, if they release a DLC, you have no idea when you're actually going to get it. Depending on what console you are in and what region you're in, you can get it the day it's supposed to release or 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
This game is just... Now, I give the dev team a little credit, because they do seem like very passionate people.
And this is their first release that isn't a mobile game.
This is their first console game. So I'm giving them a little bit of leeway, but I'm not going to keep giving them my money if this is just what keeps happening. And then, like we said, Borderlands 3. It feels like a Borderlands sequel that would have been fine if it came out, a year or 2 after Borderlands 2, rather than
if this had come out
7 years later.
If this had come out when pre-sequel did.
Yeah, if this is what we got instead of pre-sequel, honestly, it probably would have done a lot better. But we didn't. And, here we are. This game is boring. Very boring. And I'm very sad that I ended up investing in a very boring game. That's true, I didn't have embezzled Sega money into it, so that's why it took so long.
Okay, now let's move on to biggest disappointments.
Where you're gonna see an explanation why we hate Battle for the Grid.
So, you can send yours. I'll type mine up real quick.
Oh, mine's gonna be kind of general for the most part. I have 3 here, but they're not gonna be in the order that I'm gonna talk about them in. But we could probably both back and forth on the things that we're both gonna talk about.
Alright.
Because I know there's definitely one topic that we're both talking about. You're supposed to just say my name.
So mine are, of course, 2K20, Jedi Fallen Order, there we go, Friday the 13th, the game, on Switch, and The Walking Dead, the final season.
Oh no. I forgot about that.
Let's get that there. And I'll also just do yours right now as well.
Alrighty. The big disappointments for 2019 for me: Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, Activision, Blizzard, the company bullshit that's happened this year in general, and along with that, the Crash Team Racing microtransactions.
No, not you.
Oh my god.
There we go.
Oh no.
That got fancy for a moment.
I was just saying, oh my god.
But yeah, so I basically just went over in my worsts why 2K20 bummed me the hell out. I worked for legitimately like a month getting all the assets I needed ready, everything to try and make sure I could come out with the usual creative wrestlers I do. It took me 2 months. And even then, I still had to use an exploit. Jedi Fallen Order, honestly, doesn't belong on this list.
I was going to say, I'm like, I thought you were loving the game.
It's a very good game. It's very fun. Or, not fun. I like the concepts. I like the combat being a bigger factor. I like being able to customize the lightsabers. I love that. The only issue I have with it is that some of it's... like, it's got a lot of issues, at least for me on my PS4. I get a lot of pop-in. And there's just a lot of situations where I don't know if it's a situation where, like, I'm not good enough, or the game's just kind of... I don't know how to say it without sounding DSP-ish.
You're not sure if the game is just ridiculously hard or if you just suck.
Yes. Although, at the same time, I also don't remember if on this... like, I've had situations where I tried to roll out of the way of an attack, and I still get caught in, like, the AoE despite being outside of it. Or just, like, it's a lot of things like that, where, to me, it feels like the game is punishing me for an action I did take. Punishing me for not taking an action I did take. But yeah, like I said, it honestly doesn't belong on this list. It's just the best place I could think to put it. So, like, worst games, it's a situation where, even though it's an issue where, I will put it here, we can at least defend parts of it. And plus, the way I phrase this in my list is, it's good, like a pizza, but it feels a little undercooked, like a pizza that can't support its toppings. Hello, McParty Butt.
I love that you're taking a stance here on how well done you want your pizzas.
It's important.
I get that.
Anyway, Friday the 13th technically came out, what, 3
2017.
years ago? Yeah. But they released it on Nintendo Switch this year, so fuck them. I'm going to count that as a new release.
And it does kind of just lead into the big topic of, technically they weren't supposed to be able to release new versions of this game, and then, you know, the lawsuit was over, and they could have.
Mm-hmm. If that lawsuit's over, where the fuck is Uber Jason?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get not starting development on completely new assets, because that... Oh.
It's still going? Then how are they able to release this? How the fuck does that work?
But yeah, either way then, the fact that they have the goal to release this game, despite it being dead, in 2019, it's not good. Not a good look at all.
Especially since the developers have since publicly stated they're not adding any new content to this game, and have even moved on to other projects, such as Layers of Fear 2, which you saw how middling that game was when that came out.
And Walking Dead final season.
This is hardcore spoilers, by the way.
Oh, I thought we were going to avoid spoilers, because weren't you avoiding it?
I
for
thought you were
your
going to
thing?
talk about the spoilers.
Well, I will.
'Cause I remember that was the biggest disappointment for you.
Yeah. The entire season by itself isn't that bad. But, like, a wedding with a big fart at the end. That ending just kills everything. Caleb was there with me when I was playing the final episode. And there's a point where it's very obvious they're doing an allusion to the first season. Clem is bleeding out, and you have the little child, you have AJ, who has to make the choice of whether he's going to leave her and try to escape for himself, or what else. And there was a moment where I paused the game, and I was afraid to unpause it. Because I knew the moment I did, a character that I saw basically grow up through that entire series was about to die. And then when I finally built up the nerve to unpause, they played it like she had died, and then at the end, bullshit revealed that a fucking 6-year-old somehow carried a dying woman, at least 16, 17, all the way back to their home so they could cut her foot off. Or cut her foot off and then carried her back without her bleeding out and dying on the way there, despite how close to death she already was. I would much rather Clem have died than get the ending they gave. But, you know, it's enough. I don't... Yeah, Colton's right there. There's no legitimate explanation. It definitely... Well, I mean... Maybe TV show Walking Dead. The graphic novels... Usually a little more... Considering Robert Kirkman's the kind of guy who'll cut a character's hand off and then, 20 issues later be like, oh, right, shit, I cut his hand off, because he doesn't plan ahead. But he was also brave enough to end that series this year by going completely out of left field. So, maybe it was just because Telltale folded and they needed somebody to finish the games first. Not only wouldn't have bled out, she also, she had a gaping wound that if they put zombie guts in or around that, it would have killed her quicker. You?
Pretty much, Rabuka. That's how they should... that's not how the ending was.
Mm-hmm.
And given how the whole Walking Dead issue ended, it's very suspicious how they're gonna put out Wolf Among Us 2, with the fact that this is not the original team, and Lord knows how, the whole deal is going here.
I'm interested in it. I don't think I'm getting it at launch, though.
I'm not. I'm definitely not. It's a game I've wanted for years, but considering... Can we talk about spoilers for any of these?
I'd say, yeah, I just spoiled the shit.
I mean, you just
out
spoiled the
episode
ending
of
of
The
Final
Walking Dead's
Dead. I
final
was gonna
season.
say. You technically, yeah. So, I mean... And these are all... At least these games right here, these are all games that we've played the shit out of, so...
Don't worry about it, Sky.
Don't worry about it. Do you guys know this payment of Cube World? I don't know what the fuck Cube World is.
I feel like it's something I should know, but it's not ringing a bell.
I have no idea what Cube World is. Should I transition to my disappointments
Absolutely.
then? Alright. For Battle for the Grid, me and Rap could talk about how excited we were when we heard a Power Rangers fighting game was coming out.
I wasn't that souped up about it, but you and Johnny were super excited.
Yeah, we were fucking hyped as hell for it. Because
And that
it
rubbed
hasn't
off
been
on
a
me.
thing. Yeah. And it hasn't been a thing since, I don't know, when was the fucking... Was it the SNES?
Yeah, that was the last time they had a traditional fighting game.
Yeah, and going back, it still functions, obviously, but to have a modern day Power Rangers game that promised to have Power Rangers from throughout the whole fucking series, that sounds sick as hell. Because there's been a whole bunch of Power Ranger shit that's just... It would be awesome in a fighting game. And, to be completely honest, they do represent the characters very well in Battle for the Grid. Most of them. As long as we're not talking about voice acting. And that's going to go into the biggest disappointments, is that this game has a lot of cut corners. This is a game that's... It was published by Hasbro, in case anyone was wondering. They have the money they could have thrown at this game, but they didn't. But the development team is... What's their name? Enway, I think?
Yeah.
They're very passionate Power Rangers fans. They've proven that throughout the whole fucking year.
Hell, their previous effort in this franchise was Legacy Wars, which the game's loosely based on.
Mm-hmm. And that's still going, if I remember correctly. But the big thing about this game is that not only on launch was it a disaster, this game still looks disgusting. It does look like a mobile game that's been straight ported to a console, which, yeah, I get it. It's a mobile dev team, and this is their first time using the Unity engine of all engines to make a fighting game out of. That's very interesting start, but they are... Somehow there are differences between consoles graphics-wise. The Switch is still somehow slightly uglier, despite the fact that there is no reason for it to look slightly uglier. They use the mobile game engine. I mean, Unity's been used for a lot of PC games. I know it a lot more for PC games than mobile games. It's a very open source engine. You can use it for whatever you want. But it's not the highest quality engine, and it's certainly not top of the line. Yeah, this is the first time the team used a new engine. Always goes well. I've watched enough What Happened to see where this goes. The game came out, there was an infinite for Tommy that wasn't even hard to perform, so the online is pretty much ruined if you found anyone using Tommy Oliver. As the game got updated, which very slowly it was updated, there was a batch of 3 characters that were released for free. That was very nice. You had more Rangers spanning more things, even though it was still kind of technically just Mighty Morphin, but those were all free characters, so I wasn't worried about it. And then Season 1 came out. It was their first season pass. They didn't specify how many characters were going to be in it. They didn't specify how large it was going to be, but they threw out a very flat price of, what was it, $20?
Yeah.
Or was it 15? I don't remember.
It was 20 because the deluxe version that included that first season pass
was 40. Yeah, that's right.
And the game itself is 20.
Yeah, double the game for 3 characters. The game released with, what, 7, 9 at most? If you count 9. The free characters? I don't even remember. Was it 9 first, 9, and then it was...
And then it expanded to 3 when they had the update that was like... Dino Zord thing, Trini, Senna Blue, and... someone else.
I apologize on what you're about to witness.
Off the top of my head.
Thank you for the follow, a little magic. But yeah, basically on a 12-person roster, it was like 60% Mighty Morphin.
Mm-hmm. You had like 3 characters that weren't Mighty Morphin. And even then, there were only like... There were also very few stages. There was like 6 stages. And one of them was a training room that was all gray. It wasn't... Not to mention... Oh, God. I'm not going to go too far in deep into the graphics right now. But it was a game that was very hyped, had a lot of potential, and just throughout the year just kept disappointing me more and more. The game kept... Every time they do an update, they'd have to majorly fix some movesets because they'd find some sort of glitch that was either... It was inconsistent hit detection, or it would cause an infinite, which this game isn't meant to have infinites. Which, by the way, the social team will retweet anything you pretty much say about this game as long as it's kind of remotely positive or give it some sort of clout. And they retweeted earlier an infinite for a character that recently came out, Daishi, and you're not supposed to have infinites in this game. You're not supposed to be able to infinitely combo a character in this game. That's not how it's meant to be played. So, yeah, it's just throughout the year, it's been disappointing me more and more with the releases getting jumbled every year. The character selection is pretty sick for the season passes, not gonna lie, but 3 characters for double the price of the game is absolute dog. I'm sorry. Even if it's characters I truly love, which 2 characters that came out this year I do truly love, I'm not paying that much money for them. That's not worth it. Not at all.
Put some fucking respect on Power Rangers in Space's name.
You have no space representation, and you probably won't because I don't see this game going another season.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, it does have its little passionate community or whatever, and it still shows up as like side things you can do at fighting game events from what I'm aware of. But overall, it's just not very great. Should you get the Lego Millennium Falcon? I mean, if you're into that.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
No. I know the second thing there's the Activision thing, but I'm gonna do the Crash Team Racing microtransaction thing first
Yeah, of
because
course.
it segues a lot better into that. So, Crash Team Racing is easily one of my favorite games of the year. Probably second place to Devil May Cry 5. I absolutely adore Crash Team Racing. If you ever watch me stream it, you can tell how much I just gush over it all the time and how happy I was playing it. I hadn't consistently played a game for so long at that point. I consistently played like Devil May Cry 5 until I beat the story, and then I kind of just, I don't know, I kind of fell off for a bit. Just gaming in general. So when I got back into it with Crash Team Racing, I was so fucking happy. It was so much fun to go back through. Why did you swap it to the worst games of 2019?
I accidentally deleted that screen.
Ah. Alrighty then. Alright.
Oh yeah, then I'll just go to this one and we can continue. So Crash, microtransactions.
Yeah, Crash microtransactions. I was enjoying the game so much. The first event came out the next month after the release, and it was a grind fest. Not gonna lie, you pretty much had to play online every day and try your best to do the challenges. You may have had to actually get some friends together to cheat the challenges if you really wanted to get everything on that list. So yeah, it was very grindy, but I still had fun playing it because I love playing that game. Then the second event came out, and Activision announced that they were adding microtransactions to the game. So, and you could see this coming from a mile away. The shop is set up in a way where it's like Fortnite, where it's every day there's new stuff in it, and there's also new stuff that gets rotated out every week as well. It was just the writing in the sand was there, but I was just hoping and praying they weren't going to do it. And when it released and there was no microtransactions, I thought I was safe, and I wasn't. It was not safe. The time shop added on with the microtransactions that were added in 2 months after the game released. So the ESRB, you couldn't even get on them for that either. It's absolute bullshit. It broke my heart. I did not play the game until this month. And the only reason I played it this month was to show my older sister that it exists, because she loved the original Crash Team Racing as well. I didn't even know that there was a remake out there. So I let her play that a little bit. She had fun with it or whatever. And it's just... I literally had never been so just brokenhearted in general in such a long time. Like, everyone can, like, we make jokes about it now, but genuinely, I was so upset that I couldn't play really anything. I was just sad. My favorite video game was just fucking ruined for me. And I get some people, you can just technically ignore the microtransactions or whatever, but knowing that they're there, knowing that this system was developed for this reason, it was designed to fuck you over and for you to put more money into those microtransactions. And looking at the challenges for the last event, yeah, they haven't gotten any easier. In fact, they've probably gotten even more difficult, so that you would even be more incentivized to do the fucking microtransactions. It's just truly disappointing. And I'm going to let that segue into all the stupid company bullshit that has been happening this year. With all these companies doubling down on microtransactions, loot boxes, throwing it in every game they can. The new Trials game came out, and that had loot boxes in it. I was pissed off about that, so I didn't buy it. Loot boxes are getting added to every single game because companies are just trying to make money now. Publishing companies don't give a damn about whether or not they're going to make a fun game. They're worried about if they're going to keep making money off of it for extended periods of time.
Games as a service.
Exactly. Games as a service, and it's a bullshit thing that I want to die. I don't want to see that keep going. I want it done. I'm sick of all these subscription services coming out for every damn company. Ubisoft thinks they can have their own goddamn subscription service just for Ubisoft games. Congrats, for $12 a month you can play fucking Uno on the PC.
Assassin's Creed, Uno, Watch Dogs, The Crew,
everything.
And Just Dance.
Which, don't get me wrong, they're fun games in their own right, but they're all the same games. They're all the same games. As someone who's played Steep, The Crew 2, and Watch Dogs 2. Yeah, Watch Dogs 2, I think.
Watch Dogs 2 was the good one.
Yeah. Well, even still, they all play the same. They all have the same, engine, the same feel. If you're a real Ubisoft fan, then yeah, you can get that subscription. But you probably already have those games. Yeah, exactly, Rebecca. And it's just... I'm sick of games as a service. I want it to die. I'm sick of companies trying to pull and squeeze every bit of cash they can out of every game. I want games to be about making great games again. I want people to be able to make money off of games by just making great games. And don't get me wrong, that still exists. There's a lot of games that have come out that just exist, that just to, be good games. Like Celeste. Celeste is a great fucking game.
Hell,
play Celeste.
Going back to it, Resident Evil 2. That game, the most monetization they did was they had the outfits, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And there was an accelerator thing where you can play as the hidden stories without having to beat the game or whatever.
Yeah. So,
which is its own.
And I believe that even broke sales records for Capcom.
It did. It was a very, Resident Evil 2 was very refreshing. Especially for Capcom, who would release Devil May Cry 5 with microtransactions, and not a good way to really grind for orbs until they finally released one a month later.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that this next decade has less of that bullshit. I don't see it happening, considering these practices are getting more and more common. But I just hope we can turn things around. We're already trying to get loot boxes banned in multiple governments across multiple countries. So there's progression being made. So hopefully I just hope this is taken care of soon. I just want to play video games, man.
Mm-hmm.
On to happier things now.
The best thing I can think of in that instance, at least, is that when there's a game that comes out that pulls a little too hard, that mask comes off a little bit and you can see the the fucking microtransaction ghoul come out. Mordor, Shadow of War, Battlefront 2, those games get annihilated. Not critically, commercially.
Mm-hmm.
Because people won't stand for it. And the term is hoser, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm. There is the free Kirby game that also has microtransactions. So they've even ruined the fucking pink puff ball. It is a free game though. But at that rate, I don't excuse that either.
Yeah.
Because the game is also developed to incentivize behind the microtransactions. Oh yeah, mobile games are the worst of it. That's why
mobile games were where that shit started.
Yeah. And mobile games make that money easily, which is why they're being implemented into mainline games, because companies have realized, oh, we can do that.
Yeah, if they do that to Pokemon, that's the end of the franchise.
Oh yeah, Pokemon. No, Pokemon Go doesn't have loot boxes, just microtransactions. Same with whatever the new one that came out this year that I don't remember what the name is already.
I don't know either. Pokemon Masters.
Masters, that's right. Let's go. That didn't come out this year, did it?
Let's Go? No, that was the end of last year, and that wasn't even microtransactions either.
No. It was just underwhelming. Alrighty.
Yeah, I think we'll
move on to happier things.
Yeah, well, maybe while we're in this mindset, we do the worst of the decade, and then move on to the best to end it happy.
We could. I'm okay with that. I suppose I should send you mine.
Alright, I'll just type mine out real quick.
Alright. Mine's still a fairly short list. Like I said, we didn't really want to focus on the negative things, but the negative things also get more talk time because obviously they're just easier to talk about in that case. But I promise you, this is a shorter list, and honestly, with the things I want to talk about, they'll probably be shorter than my talk about Crash Team Racing. Hello Kitty Island Adventure 2. I didn't realize there was a sequel. Yeah, exactly, McFarty, but they're not worried about games being fun, they're worried about games making money. And it's easy to make money off of people with gambling addictions.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Blizzard.
So mine are fairly easy. BioShock Infinite. There we go. Friday the 13th.
Not gonna lie, I thought you were just gonna leave it at BioShock Infinite.
Well, then my shit just gets easy. Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 5, Mass Effect Andromeda.
We share more on our list than I thought we would, honestly.
There we go.
Fallout 54.
But yeah, that's my list. BioShock Infinite is here and there, honestly. I played the first two, and I liked the first one. The third, or the second, Infinite felt like it tried to be so much more without actually putting in the work to be so much more. Like, there's a video that I showed JBI about this.
It's very dated, mind you.
Yeah, true.
I only say that for the language that is used in it.
Ah, yeah. I haven't watched it in a couple years myself.
It is very shocking, but
we are not
video
big
does
party,
its purpose.
The reason why this is only me and JBI is because the other people we were going to have do this with us decided to watch GCW instead.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of the planning was just me and Rip anyway, so...
True.
It was basically just, if anyone else was around, we could have done this, but me and Rip were the only ones who really prepared for it.
But yeah, basically it's like they put all this stuff in the game about your choices, but they don't ever actually give you a choice for anything. It's still just a first-person shooter along the lines of BioShock. I thought it would be more, that's why it's on my biggest disappointment list. That being said, though, the Barbershop Quartet version of God Only Knows still slaps. Friday the 13th, the game. Basically everything I said in the worst of the year thing applies. It's a fun game. I find it a lot better than Dead by Daylight, but the lawsuit against it just deadens it. It killed it, and it deadens any sort of hype I have for it.
Mm-hmm. It also doesn't help that the development company just kind of fucking dipped out on it.
I think he meant 2K15 just in the sense of like, because it was the game where they switched to the new generation of consoles, so
I mean, to be fair, 2K15 was the first of the new generation, and that's always a rough transition for anyone. Especially a yearly franchise.
Yeah, and it also basically suffered from the same thing Pro Skater 5 did, which is just a
terrible development cycle.
Yeah. Terrible development cycle and made specifically to fulfill a contract. Like, they made that game just so they could pop out one last cash in on that license before it expired. The same thing kind of happened to an extent with Andromeda. Because, like, Mass Effect was a game that they could have it was a franchise they could have and could still do so much with. But because they just couldn't wait to get the money for it, they put out a subpar product made by a team that didn't have enough experience for a AAA release. And they're leaving that franchise to die on the vine. Everything they could do with it. And there's been nothing since, at this point, what was it, 2017 that it came out? Early?
Yes, 2017.
Biggest Nintendo disappointment of the decade? Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I can get that.
Not necessarily a bad Zelda game.
No, the Wii U. The Wii U in general.
Yeah, I'd say that too. That game was essentially just, hey, let's do the GameCube Zeldas in high def. And nothing else.
Nothing else.
I mean, it technically got Breath of the Wild, but that was like going back to play Twilight
That was
Princess
planned for the Switch anyways.
Yeah.
Once they realized the Wii U was dead, they were just going to put it on the Switch and left another Wii U for those who couldn't afford a Switch right away.
And then Fallout's 4 and 76. 4 because it's not a Fallout game. It's a Bethesda game that has Fallout properties, but it's the same story as Fallout 3. Just flipped. You're the parent looking for the child as opposed to the child looking for the parent. And it still has the same issue Fallout 3 had. It actively de-incentivizes exploration because the main story has an implied urgency to it. So why would you stop looking for your son so that you could find paint for Fenway Park? At least when Fallout 3 did this, I did something similar with like the mission that Three Dog would put you on if you couldn't pass a speech check, or that Moriarty would put you on if you didn't grab his information or whatever. You were doing it because Moriarty was an asshole who otherwise wouldn't give you the information, because if you don't do that mission for Three Dog, then that radio station only goes like halfway across the wasteland. And there's honestly not a whole lot of that in 4. And 76, the shit I could say about that could fill an entire Replicast.
And still has complications going to this day.
Absolutely. It is. At this point, I almost have to believe it's still open as some sort of twisted experiment. Because a game fucking up to that level, to that extent, is insane.
it was made by a dev team that doesn't normally work with Fallout games and is like a sub team that just their only previous work, I believe, was support work for Doom 2016. And Fallout 76 was entirely theirs, essentially. So it was pretty much doomed from the start.
Not to mention, just in general, the concept of a Fallout game that was massively multiplayer. It's a flawed concept.
Not to mention, it was proudly boasting the fact that it had no NPCs or anything that made it Fallout.
Mm-hmm. The only Fallout things about it were you started in a vault, you had a pit boy, and if...
There's Fallout in the title.
Yeah. And then for you...
And then for me... And then for me... Oh boy.
Fallout 4 actively made me hate the dog.
I get that. Because you can't do anything with the dog. The dog's just there.
And it actively gets in your way.
For me, it never got in my way. Especially since you could do the glitch where you could get the Cryonate or whatever the fuck the ice gun was in the beginning of the game. But overall, it wasn't really very... But yeah, my biggest disappointments of the decade were Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, the Wii U in general, Friday the 13th, and Kickstarters in general. So, to start off with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, I finally played the game for the first time this year. Like, I knew about how shit it was overall, and of course, after reaching a sub-goal, I was forced to 100% the game. Still working on it, sadly. But I finally did complete the game.
I still like that, to an extent, Johnny is to blame for both of us playing it. Because I bought it on release, full price, because I was that enthralled with the group at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'll play it with them when it comes out. And
there was no direct online multiplayer. It was very bad.
Yeah.
But
and he fucking sub-bombed you and got you to that goal.
Technically, Rez got me Pro Skater 5.
I do not hate dogs. I hate the dog in Fallout 4.
But yeah, with Pro Skater 5, there's the skeleton of a game there. I can definitely tell that whatever the developer was, I'm forgetting their name off the top of my head, Robomoto, they tried in the little dev cycle they had, the little time they had for Activision to shit out one more game before the license expired. But it's bad. It's glitchy, it's inconsistent, it's slow, it's sluggish. The engine is just abysmal. It's the same engine used in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD. It's a bad game all around.
Friday
it's
the 13th
just bad.
Was
it's
a Kickstarter
boring.
Also.
Yes, it was. It's just so bad.
Essentially, Ivan.
Had they just made this a game that did not have the Pro Skater tagline on it, it would not have been as negatively received, but Activision knew it wouldn't sell as well if it wasn't in the mainline series. So, there you go. There you go.
I figured Jump Force isn't on here just because neither of us really ever thought that would be good.
No, we knew that was shit from the start. It looked ugly and whatever with the gameplay I never cared about. Yeah, the license was expiring. It's the whole reason the game exists is because Activision wanted one more cash grab. And put Robomoto out of business. So, there you go. Now, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Xenoverse 2, in all senses, is a game that is functioning and still going on. They keep adding things to it to this day.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's still going. In the form of a bunch of DLCs, mind you, and they have much more effort put into it than the actual main game. Mm-hmm. Xenoverse 2? If Xenoverse 2 was Xenoverse 1, Like, if there was no Xenoverse 1, I would have loved this game. This is Xenoverse 1.5 with a lot less effort put into it. Excluding the DLCs, mind you. The DLCs have a fuck ton more effort put into it, but that's just putting more. Yeah, they added Majub and Android 21 to the game this month, which is pretty cool. Well, the characters are pretty cool. I don't buy the DLCs and I don't play the game anymore for obvious reasons.
21's the fighters android,
Yes.
right? Neat.
Yes, that's Vor Queen. It's just, it reuses a lot of shit. It's always me. I always bring them 4 first. It's story mode. Well, it was advertising that it added in movie villains, and the movie villains hardly really play a part in it at all. Ever. You get a lot of cool new people that you can learn techniques from, but the fighting in the game is so hit or miss. It's such a disgusting... It's so inconsistent. But it's not supposed to be a fighting game. It's supposed to be an action RPG. Whatever. You can get into whatever semantics you want. It's a game that had an advertised movie villains, and then hides a lot of movie villains behind a lot of paywalls. A lot of the DLC is where most of the effort is at, and even then you still need to buy the main game to even play those. Oh wait, no. Didn't Xenoverse go free to play?
I don't remember.
I think it went free to play, but I could be wrong about that. It might have just did that for a little bit. I don't remember. Yeah, Broly and Janemba got thrown into every mission later in the game for no reason. Turles and Lord Slug show up for the first, quarter of the game, and then you just kill them. They just die. They don't do anything. They're just dead. It's a game that, if it was the first game, I'd be okay with it. But it's a $60 expansion that gets more and more expensive with every expansion. And I was extremely disappointed in it. I thought it was just not worth it. It just made me mad, even more mad, because they even added microtransactions. They added more and more just missions that are just borderline impossible unless you fucking grind or you use the microtransactions, obviously. It's not a fun game. It's a grind and a grind and a grind, and it's just not fun and not worth it. It's not the game that it advertises to be. And now moving on to probably generally the biggest and most expensive disappointment on this list. The Wii U. I am an owner of the Wii U, and I thought the console was... I thought it was pretty neat. I like the big gamepad idea. I like it because it was like, well, the Wii's perfect for that. Because it's like, well, you can have games, have a lot of, you can have just about anything. There were so many ideas you could have done with that gamepad. And that was the problem. No one knew what the fuck to do with that gamepad. No one but Nintendo. Nintendo knew what the fuck to do with that gamepad because they made the damn thing. No third party really knew what to do with it.
It's the issue with multi-platform development in general.
Mm-hmm. If you're going to have an ambitious piece of technology, it's got to be easy enough for a developer to understand and make use of it.
Yeah. When you have a ubiquitous, at least I think I'm using the word right, piece of equipment on your console, like Sony does with the touchpad for the PS4, when 90% of developers will put their game out for every platform to try and get as much money as they can out of the game, they're most of the time not going to find uses for gameplay that only half the people are going to be able to access in the first place.
Now, I'll list off the Wii U games that I have over here. I have, these are the ones that I own physically. I have Hyrule Warriors, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Mario Kart 8, New Super Mario Bros. U with the New Super Luigi Bros. U, and Smash 4. All of those, with probably the exception of New Super Mario Bros. U, which even that's a competent game, it's just not fun. They're also all great games. I also own Super Mario Maker. That's a very great game. Zombie U, that was also a pretty great game. It's just... no one knew what to do with this thing. And not to mention the poor naming in general. wasn't sure until I got the Wii U for Christmas one time what the hell the Wii U was. I wasn't sure if it was an expansion for the Wii or if it was a new console. It was just, Nintendo was very terrible about marketing it. It was fucking bad. But the Wii U had a great list of games, and that's why they're all getting ported to the Switch. And nothing makes me mad more than seeing a game get announced for Switch as I see it on my fucking shelf in my left eye. It's just, it had no third-party support. The biggest third-party name that they were going to fucking have, fucking Devil's Third. Oh man. That was a game. It was just so poorly marketed, no third-party support, and Nintendo just kind of killed it off without really any real warning. And at least on the bright side, it led to a lot of great games on the Switch. That's kind of the only upside of it, is that
I
at least
apologize
now
on
the
what
Switch
you're about
exists
to
because of it.
witness.
Thank you for the follow, Show Off Steve OG.
You might want to move your alert list up.
Oh yeah,
So it's
now
not getting
realizing-
drowned out by my disappointments. But and then you have, of course, Friday the 13th, which we've already kind of gone through. It's obviously it was a game, had a lot of. It was very fun to play. It was always been glitchy, and apparently it's still very glitchy. I don't know how a game that's been out for 2 years and isn't getting anything new added to it is still kind of glitchy, but here we are. It was a Kickstarter game, but it's just, it had so much potential. With every big update, it added new things that just got us more and more excited because it was a game that had heart in it. And then once that lawsuit happened,
and it had Rez in it.
it had Rez in it. Rez Clown is in it. And he's a great character to actually play as.
Mm-hmm.
I made Rez. It was pretty great. It's a game now that purely exists to just kind of make whatever money they can out of it, because Gun Media, the developers behind it, have long abandoned it. They even put out a new game since then, which for some reason is a sequel to a game franchise they had no part in before. I don't get it either. But it was a fun game, but now it just exists. It doesn't... It's kind of a barren game. The fact that they released it on Switch this year shows they can apparently still kind of do things with it. But now that the developer's long gone, that heart is also kind of gone. And so it just kind of leads to the question of, why does it exist now?
At this point, all we have to look forward to is Dead by Daylight. And what kind of a fucked up world is it where we have to look forward to Dead by Daylight?
Exactly. Friday the 13th was kind of the only competition to Dead by Daylight in the very large and asymmetrical multiplayer gimmick. It's a very hard genre to pull off, and I feel like Friday the 13th did it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
It's... But now we can move on to Kickstarters in general, because this past decade, Kickstarters have been getting kicked the shit in. Smash Bros. 4 DLC characters got to move to the Switch version. Yeah, but Smash Ultimate's not a Smash 4 port. It's a whole ass new game that has every character in it since then. And a big, yeah, exactly, man. The big contributor to Kickstarters getting their shit pushed in is Mighty Number 9, the poorly marketed and, quite frankly, the poorly prepared development team behind it were not prepared for what they were promising. Mighty Number 9 kind of put a very big shit stain on Kickstarters in general, which is very unfair, because Kickstarters are a great way to have fans support your game and to show interest in games in general.
Thanks for
Like
fucking
me.
it up for everyone else, Inafune.
Pretty much. Well, it wasn't the only game that did it. There was a few fucking
It was
games
just
that
perhaps
did
the
it.
highest profile fuck up.
Yeah, that one is the biggest name that is easy to pull out. Shenmue. That's Shenmue 3. That's another big one that kind of fucked it, especially recently. The Shadow of Eternals dev team. I don't know their new name. I forget what it's called. Is it called QE or something like that? I don't remember. But it's the new Shadow of Eternals dev team tried to come back and fund a Kickstarter for a Shadow of Eternals spiritual successor, which the Kickstarter was very shady and no one funded it because it was very, very scary. Yeah, ukulele also kind of fits in that category. However, ukulele was just kind of a middling experience, and that's because it's just like I don't think it overpromised anything. It's just the game just turned out to kind of be a middling game over some good Kickstarter games. Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight's the easy one to pull out of that. And yeah, Shovel Knight did take 10 years for them to fully promise everything, but they kept everyone in the know. They kept everyone, updated with what was going on. They didn't leave anyone to believe that the game was ever dead. The game kept getting ported and ported, and was Undertale a Kickstarter game?
Yes, it was.
Oh shit, I actually
Was
didn't even
the
know that.
original
Well, Undertale.
Monster Prom also crowdfunded?
Yes, Monster
Yeah.
Prom was also kickstarted, I believe. And Monster Prom 2 is being kickstarted. I gave them a hefty donation because I love Monster Prom, and I'll get into that later when we get into our games of the decade.
I also donated for not quite as much as you, but
No,
enough
you
to
did
get
not.
myself a free copy. Well, that's also
I was gonna
because the game didn't. I like it. I love the writing in it, but it hit you in a very specific, special way.
Yeah, it hit me in a very specific way, but we'll get to that later. Bloodstain also had a little bit of controversy with the original release of Ritual of the Night or whatever, with the graphics of it not looking great, and then later on they updated it and whatever. I think that was fixed out. I don't remember what the other big deal about it was, but I think the Switch port and how bad that was, which is the version I own, unfortunately. But they fixed that apparently this year as well, so. But yeah, Kickstarters have kind of been getting kicked in the dick. And I really do hope that this next decade, people kind of give Kickstarters a chance again. I think it's a great way for fans to, directly contribute to helping a game being developed. And it kind of helps, games keep that pure feeling of wanting to be fun rather than making money. If we kind of know the general budget of what a developer has, you kind of know what they're shooting for and what kind of game it's going to be. It's
a special shout out, by the way, to people like Double Fine, who crowdfunded Psychonauts 2 5 years ago, and it's still not out. To Star Citizen, that has crowdfunded itself to the tune of $250 million, and is still nowhere near completion.
Jesus fucking Christ. Super was a Kickstarter game? I didn't even know that. Hell yeah. Great games can come from Kickstarters. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of sad that a lot of big companies are trying to take advantage of Kickstarters and, try to milk money out of them.
I suppose it's a nice way to gauge interest, because you see how people are clamoring for new games, how dedicated they are to it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to... I don't know.
It's a very weird process because it's like you have to keep an eye. It's exactly. It's kind of lost. It's lost over a lot of people abusing it and taking forever to put out their products. But as long as you keep people up to date with where you're at on things and that you show you're not dead and you didn't just run away with their money, you can keep people, interested. Like Monster Prom 2, like Kickstarter I donated to this year, keeps me up to date on things. They put out an update at least every month, and I have access to like their inner Discord stuff as well because of how much I gave. But Hog Ventures, oh god, it's a matter of communication. If you are obviously a very passionate company, you will keep people up to date at least somewhat regularly. My idea is like once every month. I feel like that's so reasonable, just to give people an update where you're at, what's coming up, what's your main goal, what are you putting out soon, stuff like that. If you keep people in the know, they won't get upset because they'll know that it's still working. And if you give them a realistic release date, which Monster Prom 2 gave a realistic release date of 2020. I think it was like October 2020 was their shoot goal for that.
Which would be fitting, Halloween time.
Exactly. And the Kickstarter started like, what, was it April?
I believe so.
It was somewhere around April. So they're setting realistic goals for what they can do. And obviously they're keeping people updated on how things are going and what they're trying to do. It's a matter of setting realistic expectations and keeping communication with your fans. If you can do those two things, then Kickstarter's not hard. But as soon as people start feeling sketched out with things, aka Shenmue, Mighty Number 9, and you do these things after you've already taken their money, then it's not going to look so great. And we should do Monster Prom stream again one day. We should. There's been a lot of stuff added to it since the last time we streamed it.
I'd be down.
We'll have to do that again sometime. We could probably do it for part of the marathon.
Alright, I'm down with that.
Oh yeah. Maybe... Nah, they won't have anything. I was gonna say, they might have something added for a Monster Prom 2 thing, but no, they won't. Not by January.
Not by 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, especially not from 2 weeks from now. But they did add a new update, actually, just recently, like the other day, I want to say, so that'll be fun. But yeah, those are my biggest disappointments. I do hope Kickstarters get a more polished name this next decade. Yeah, Monster Prom's 50% off right now on Steam. Play Monster Prom. That's how I'm ending this, ending the disappointments of a decade. Play Monster Prom.
Alright, see you in a second, Party Butt. And so with that, a piece to
Time for happy
resist on.
things.
Let me move that up here.
The big boy. Do you want me to send you my game of the decade list? I'm assuming you don't want my honorable mentions, which is 20 things long. I can send you the decade stuff, but I don't think you want the 20-bit long list.
It's stuff we'll just mention as we go through it, but it's not anything we have to list directly.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, genital jousting. Oh my god. After actually playing genital jousting, I've never felt so dirty in my life. We spent a good amount of time making these lists, by the way.
We straight up went through Wikipedia's release schedule for the last decade, just so we wouldn't miss anything.
Mm-hmm. And even then, we probably did miss something, but we tried our best.
Oh. That's not nice, Sky.
Damn. Fucking got him.
But I mean, I am basic as shit.
In fairness, Crowley, these are our own personal lists.
To be fair, Sky, I just added that earlier when I remembered what it was. Like, it was a thing.
We have very different lists. Very, very different lists. Why the fuck?
There we go.
Is it out of order? I made this list off the top of my fucking head.
Mine is in relative order. His is not.
Either of you put Witcher 3? I never played Witcher 3.
And I've been trying to get back through it myself just the last 2 days.
I never played Witcher 3. So, also, hello, Ginger.
Hello. Yeah, so mine, fairly easy. Mass Effect 2 legitimately came out first month of this decade. I played Bloodborne like once, and I mean to get into the Yakuza games, I just haven't. But Mass Effect 2, I can still go back to the ending of that game and be like, oh, hell yeah, Mass Effect 3 is coming. And then I get disappointed because of what ends up happening with Mass Effect 3 and all the shit that came after Mass Effect 3.
But that's not what we're focused on here.
Like, I cannot tell you how... Like, I basically can't go back through Mass Effect 1 and 2. Because I went through those games so many fucking times. Mass Effect 2, I think, is the only game I 100%ed on Xbox. That's how much I played it. That's how I went into it. The Ocarina and Majora remakes. I'm a huge ass Zelda nerd, and they take what are already a couple of the best games in the series, in my opinion, and make them so much better. Also, hello, Garrett. Hopefully it is. I'm at the part of Witcher 3 I played before and just kind of fell off at. So, tomorrow after I get off work, maybe I'll go back and keep playing. I don't know. I should make sure I get the most out of my money. Arkham City. I would have said the entire series, but, you know, that's just the best overall to me. Arkham Origins was booty and bad on PC, from what I remember. And Arkham Knight had a disastrous PC launch, and it was very glitchy on, like, at launch for PS4 too. Skyrim, honestly, is something I might have put more in honorable mentions, because it's fun, it's neat, but it does have its flaws. But it's also something you can't exactly talk about gaming in this decade without. Borderlands 2, same basic concepts I figure JBI will have. It's a fun thing. It revitalized that franchise at that time. And it's a great way to fucking kill an afternoon with friends. The original Walking Dead specifically, I haven't played it in a while, but that game by itself hooked me on Telltale. I think I bought every game they put out, with the exception of the Minecraft one, from Walking Dead to their death. I haven't beaten all of them. I still haven't gotten through Tales from the Borderlands or Guardians of the Galaxy, but I own those. I've played through Wolf Among Us. I played through all 4 seasons of Walking Dead. I played the Game of Thrones game that ended real shitty. GTA 5. Ooh.
And nothing just hit as much as the original Walking Dead, really.
Yeah. GTA 5, it was amazing at its time. Like early 2013, that game was fucking crazy. Not only just because it, you know, was like the first game, I think, that broke $1 billion in sales in its opening weekend, but it also just like felt bigger. It's like one of the points where a lot of things I feel like people take for granted in games now might have started to come from. And yeah, like I haven't said, the online mode is still on that. It's still super active. It still
gets added to.
Yeah. Like they have a new heist that we're going to be doing during the marathon. Undertale is definitely a close one for my game of the decade overall. It's something I remember buying because it was a meme at the time. But as I got further and further into it, it hit me, you know, oh, this is a very good story. This is a good story. I like the concepts of this game. And that soundtrack, it's still shit that it's one of my favorite soundtracks in gaming. And there's a certain noise to Toby Fox songs. Like the the song they had him do for Pokemon. That's very obviously one of his songs. RE7, it's PT that made it to market. But that was the game that saved that franchise. Without that game, Resident Evil, I don't think makes it to the 2 make or the 3 make.
Not after what 6 did.
Spider-Man 2018 is a game that made me cry. That's all I have to say. But it's a game that wasn't made for a deadline. It was a game made because they wanted to make a Spider-Man game, and they made a really good one. It was basically just Arkham Asylum but Spider-Man, but it was a very good use of that concept. It made sense in the context of the world, and the suit mechanics were all really fun. And I was enough of a nerd that I always liked to show up with a new suit wherever I went. I'm still at the point where I absolutely want them to make a new Marvel game in that engine. I would be hella down for an Iron Man game set in that New York with the same suit mechanics, with the same combat system to an extent. Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm not exactly the biggest Smash head, but it's... I'm not saying it's not a fun game. And if it weren't fun, it wouldn't be something that I would have been around for every single tournament you've held for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically gushed enough about the RE2 make in the beginning of this whole thing. I might have put Halo Reach on here for myself, but not a huge FPS guy.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, Smash Brothers is a game that we always can go back to and have a fucking fun time doing random shit in it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you gonna go to your honorable mentions now?
Alright, my honorable mentions include Red Dead Redemption, both 1 and 2, because I realized that first game came out this decade.
It did.
The reason I don't put them on my list is because I haven't played Red Dead 1 in years. I still have it somewhere, and I still have an Xbox. I'm looking right at it. I just haven't had the capability to play it. And I love a lot of the component parts of Red Dead 2. I love the dynamic hair and beard growth. I like the realism to an extent. I don't like the places where it's to the detriment of funness and gameplay. But, that's here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of the mechanics. I like all that shit. But it's because Red Dead 2 overindulges and overexerts itself in a lot of those areas that it's just an honorable mention. Fallout New Vegas from 2010. It absolutely has the merits to be on the best list. Like best of the decade. But that game is hilariously unstable. That is a game that will crash if you look at it weird.
Mm-hmm.
You can mod it, of course, but just based purely on the vanilla release of it, I can't do any better than an honorable mention. Minecraft and Fortnite are both games where I dabbled with them a bit. I don't remember Skyrim being quite as broken as New Vegas, though. Like, bugginess has always been an issue with Obsidian.
But as far as, like, with Skyrim, it's like, Yeah, you can get some broken shit in that game, but in my experience playing it, I had very little bugs that I had to worry about. Whereas with New Vegas, even still today, you could breathe and it will destroy everything.
But Minecraft and Fortnite, they're games I didn't have particularly long stretches playing. I'll go back to them every so often. But they're both games where you can't exactly talk about gaming this decade without them. Just because of their popularity. Like, you were playing Minecraft just earlier, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played it yesterday.
Mass Effect 3. Fantastic game. A decent cap to the trilogy. But between an over-reliance on simplifying the story for the sake of new players, the way that they very obviously shunted the original story for the sake of a synthetics and organics can't live together concept, despite the fact that one of the late game missions includes you being able to potentially negotiate a peace between synthetics and organics. That plus the gaming media reaction to the outcry after the ending, that so many publications sided with BioWare and calling the players that were disappointed that the trilogy that prided itself on choice, which was just, red, green, or blue versions of the same ending, that they all called those players entitled, that they just insulted them mercilessly. Or not mercilessly, that sounds too dramatic. I don't know.
They fucking destroyed them.
But basically just calling people entitled for wanting more than an interchangeable ending. That and Citadel. Citadel's just kind of... It's like Batman, the Nolanverse trilogy, and that it gets a little worse every time I go through it. I notice more of what's wrong with it, and the good parts don't hit me quite the same way. The Pokemon games that came out, like the new generations that came out this decade, X and Y, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. I appreciate all the things that they've done different, but I also dislike how they haven't kept any of what made them different either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like Mega Evolution a lot. I like Z moves. They're interesting. Dynamaxing, it's a cool concept, but I wish they would stick with one. Like, I thought Mega Evolution as a concept was very cool. It was enough to get me into X and Y, but it's basically gone now. I don't even think you can get like the Mega Stones in Sword and Shield.
I don't believe so, no.
Nor do I think they're even the Z Stones.
I do not believe so.
Yeah, it's the same issue Zelda had in the 2000s. You had all these new games that each introduced neat concepts, but by the time it came to make a new game in the series, they just wiped the slate clean, for better or for worse. So this cool thing that you thought, oh, that'll make the next Zelda game that much better, it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Age Inquisition, it's an enjoyable game, and the characters, I loved a lot of the interactions they had, but you can tell a lot the game is not what they wanted it to be at its inception, and it's very obviously patched together with designers who were inexperienced with that engine. Like I said with Anthem, it's a game, it's 4 years old. Almost 5. And no, actually, it's 5 years old. It came out in 2014. And it takes up so, like, it doesn't make my computer chug, but it's very hoggy.
Mm-hmm.
That and the fact that it's taken BioWare and EA so long to get any sort of follow-up to it, it's dampening any sort of hype I would have had otherwise for a 4th game. And Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3 are basically the same kind of concepts here. I love the games, but for something that took as long as it took for both of those games to come out, Final Fantasy 15 was technically in development in 2006 and didn't come out until 2016. Being delayed further from its original launch date. And it was still buggy and iffy enough they needed to keep putting stuff out for it. Hello, Lido's Sauce. Like, okay, I just had to double check to make sure. A couple days ago, me said what I meant to say. Like with 15, it's mainly the protracted dev time, that it needed further delays despite that dev time,
Mm-hmm.
and that it required post-launch patches to further fix the game. That I can't make it more than an honorable mention. And it's the same with Kingdom Hearts 3. It's something that needed to be better at launch. It needed to be its whole self. For how long?
Mm-hmm. We're currently talking about our games of the decade, Lido's Sauce.
And I believe that's it. I don't have anything else on my list.
Alrighty. I'm going to go through my honorable mentions first, just because I'm going to spend more time talking about my games of the decade anyways. So, my honorable mentions that you won't see on this list here. Honorable mentions,
Well, they didn't
first
see
off...
mine either.
Well, yeah, no, but... My honorable mentions are, first off, 100% Orange Juice. If you don't know what that is, it's a board game on Steam that essentially is basically Mario Party without the mini games. And instead of like landing on random spaces or whatever to hurt your opponent, you have cards and stuff to change the game in different ways. You got different objectives and stuff. It's a very fun bullshit RNG game that is easy to get upset over if you love playing Mario Party games. It's obviously my honorable mentions because it's all it is just Mario Party without mini games and extra bullshit RNG added to it. It's not an amazing game, but it's one hell of a fun time with friends. Dying Light came out in 2015. It's a very fun game to play around in. I love playing the game. It's very fun. The story is absolute garbage. Oh my god, it's terrible. You are just playing the most unlikable character in the world. It is just so bad. But the game itself plays great. What are you doing?
Just adding something onto the screen.
Okay. But yeah, it plays great. Story sucks ass. There was a sequel, wasn't there?
Dying Light, I believe it's in development now.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I don't remember if it released or whatever, but yeah. Next one, Undertale. It's not on my game of the decade. It is a great game. I will say it's probably one of the best games I've ever played, and I highly recommend everyone play it. But I don't know. I feel like past the story that it had to offer, the genocide run, is like very grindy and not, which I mean, you can argue that's to help the whole message of the game where you're supposed to be nice to people and not be an asshole and kill everyone. But I don't know. I feel like it's just like for all the other content in the game, I just wasn't. I really enjoy the base game. I enjoy the not true ending that I got. And after that, I didn't really care about it after that. But overall, it's a very great game, and I highly recommend everyone play it. Going to the next, Night in the Woods. This game hurt. This game personally attacked me in like every single way. And it was fucking... It was a very emotional experience, and I loved every moment of it. The music in it is great. The story is great. That ending was just so underwhelming, though. It was just so underwhelming what it ended on. So I was just... I just couldn't put it on Game of the Decade with everything else, just because of just how underwhelming and weird the ending was. Speaking of weird, Deadly Premonition came out in 2010. This game's fucking weird. This game is not a good game. This game, in all senses, is a very bad game. But it is an experience that just makes it so incredible. It's a bad game in every sense. It's got poor frame rate issues. The combat sucks. But the dialogue and the story is just so fucking weird, man, that you just can't help but be attached to it. It's a game that you have no reason to love, but you will love it passionately. So that's why it can be on my Games of the Decade, because it's a shit game in general. But I love it. Next, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It's a very good horror game, and I still appreciate the fact that people are still making apparently custom stories from Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is very shocking to me. But it's a game that still kind of stands the test of time. It's not as scary anymore, obviously, 10 years later, because you know what to expect. But overall, I still think it's a very great and competent horror game that doesn't rely on jump scares or anything to scare the player. And it's pretty great. Terraria. I love the shit out of Terraria. I don't play it as much anymore, but it's a game I still go back to every now and then. I had a lot of fun with it when I played it with Justin years ago on PlayStation 4. There's so much you can do in the game. It's a real nice, relaxing journey. Same with Minecraft. I also have that in my honorable mentions. Both of them still stand the test of time, and there's so much you can do with them nowadays. Even if just basic vanilla Minecraft, there's still so much you can do. And they're still adding to the game, so that's pretty cool. I also have Payday 2 on here, because I have put many hours into the massive amounts of updates that Payday 2 has gotten over the years. And it is still a fun game. It's still a very difficult game to play nowadays, but it's still very fun if you grab a bunch of friends and play around it to rob some fucking bank. Skyrim, I didn't play a lot of. I put a few hours into it on 360. I enjoyed it because it was a very fun game. I, however, just kind of lost interest in it because I just kind of fell out of it. I don't really have a reason, I just fell out of it, and I have no real motivation to go back to it. But there's a reason it gets ported to everything, because it is a good game. For as buggy as it was, and still can be every now and then, it's a good game. Halo 4. I enjoyed Halo 4 a lot when I played it. It's just not as fun, in my opinion, as the Bungie Halos. But overall, it's still a very faithful... It's a faithful game to Halo, the series in general, and should have been the stopping point. Keyword should have been, but it wasn't. On to happier things, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. This game is very awesome. I highly recommend everyone at least give it a try. The soundtrack is incredible. The only thing that kind of holds it back is that it can get very repetitive, and its stealth mechanics aren't that great. But the game itself is quite the Platinum Games experience, essentially. It's a very great game. based on a character that kind of got shafted in his own game, so it's pretty great. GTA 5, I still play every now and then. It's a very fun game. It was great when it first came out, and like I said, I still play it. We still plan on playing it to this day. I just can't put it on games of the decade because overall, I feel like it's I think a lot of it just has to do with what it's become. Single player didn't get any more love past its release, and online has just become a cash cow at this point. So I can't put it in games of the decade for that reason. The Last of Us, the reason this is in games of the decade is because I never played this personally, so I can't put it on my games of the decade. But it's always a game that I loved experiencing, watching gameplay of it. The story is fucking a heart grabber, and I love every bit of it. But I never played it myself, so.
I honestly forgot Last of Us came out this decade. I would put that on my list. It's not quite the same, on the same level as, say, like a Spider-Man, which I believe, same developer. But...
no. Last of Us was Naughty Dog.
Oh, right. Shit.
That was Insomniac that did.
I had interest in that compared to other Naughty Dog shit. For example, Uncharted. I've never exactly been that into the Uncharted series.
Next one. We're almost done with my honorable mentions, I swear. Tomodachi Life. It is a very fun game on the 3DS that was very fun to go through and fuck around with. It's very fun to have your own little island of people that you can manage, see who falls in love with who, whatever drama happens. It's all very weird and great fun, and I still hope for some sort of sequel on the Switch to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And it better give us gay shit, or I will be very livid. The original Dragon Ball Xenoverse, I put this on here because I had a lot of fun playing it, even if it was kind of jank. I still love that it was finally kind of an original Dragon Ball story after years and years of just retracing through the series, which even then Xenoverse is a glorified retracing through the series.
Mm-hmm. As I say, that's part of the reason why Xenoverse 2 hit as badly as it did.
Because it was once again a retracing. So it's in the honorable mentions because of what it is, but it's still a fun time.
Xenoverse 2 is such a strongly...
It's a wrong way to do a sequel.
But it's part of the reason why I have no true interest in DBZ Kakarot, because I don't want to go through that fucking story again.
The big draw for Kakarot for me is that it's more so maintaining on exploration and stuff, and supposedly there is a bunch of, I think, what if stuff, Hitman said. I can't remember. I could be misquoting.
Well, if there is, I'll take a look at it.
But moving on to Stardew Valley, I love to death. It's a very fun game to just relax and play every now and then. Lots of other stuff. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a very fun game to kind of just chill, relax, either focus on your farm or focus on trying to get in there with any of the characters. That's right. You can be gay if you want to. It's the best kind of game. This is a game that came out in fucking 2016, so. But yeah, I highly recommend Stardew Valley to anyone who wants a chill game to play. Alright, see you, Jeremy.
Have a good night, Jeremy.
After Stardew Valley, as much as I don't want to talk about this game, I have to because I've spent a lot of time with it this decade. It's Overwatch. I still enjoyed playing it throughout the time that I played it. I can't go back to it, and it's a horrible... Not really horrible, it's a prime example of why the gaming market nowadays is fucking terrible. Also, fuck Blizzard. But I can't deny I enjoyed the shit out of Overwatch and everything that it did for the time that I played it. And then last but not least, Ring Fit Adventure. I put it on here because it is literally physically changing my life right now. It's actually getting me off my ass to exercise and get into some general shape in a fun and engaging way for me. It's just, one, I haven't finished it, and two, it's not exactly the most interesting games to have a story, but its main focus is to get you fit and working out, not be a game of the year candidate. That being said, we now move on to my actual games of the decade. Halo Reach I hold very near and dear to my heart because it is probably my favorite Halo story of the series. Whether or not it plays the best is whatever, but the fact that you finally get your own character to fully customize and play in a story is awesome, and that they're actually integrated into the story in a meaningful way is pretty great. And how you can feel how the whole Covenant, the war with the Covenant started, and how it actually progressed, and how horrible things got, and why Master Chief is the last of the Spartans. It's such a great and gripping story for me to even go back and play through all these years later. I just really hope the PC port gets a fucking patch soon, because those audio issues really fucking take me out of it. But the original 360 version still holds up, obviously, and it's still fucking fantastic. Bloodborne. I have not been a very big fan of most Dark Souls games. I was interested in Bloodborne because I was watching people play it. I'm like, alright, you know what, fuck it, we'll give it a shot. I had a lot of fun grinding my way through, killing enemies, learning how to fight enemies, fighting the bosses, exploring the beautiful scenery. It is such a fun game to explore and just move around and fight everything, and the weapons and everything in it is just, I still have fun going back to it every now and then. Even if I'm not very good at video games, it's still a very fun game. And I do highly recommend everyone give it a try. I do think it's easier than the Souls games, but I also think it's kind of better, in my opinion. But I also just don't like some of the gimmicks that the Souls games has to offer most of the time, so... Yakuza 0 is a game. It is a game. Yakuza 0 is a very fun game. You have multiple... There's so much to do in Yakuza 0. So much silly shit, and on top of a gripping, serious story, and you think it'd be distracting, but really, it all feels very natural, and it all is fun. The story is so good in Yakuza 0. And I'm not even talking about just the main story. Some of the side stories are fucking fantastic. The whole cabaret club shit with Majima is incredible. The main stories with both Kiryu and Majima are just fucking... I love it so much. Unfortunately, it also, my love with Yakuza 0 also kind of fucks me over, because that's the game I started with. So now going into the rest of the series, I'm kind of disappointed, because Majima kind of just takes a side seat now from there on, and doesn't have much of a character anymore, so it makes me sad. But hey, Yakuza 0 is easily a game that I probably want to go back and play again with sometime soon, just because of how fun it was. Super Mario Odyssey is easily the best controlling Mario game, easily probably my favorite Mario game. The only one that cuts it close is Super Mario Galaxy, and even then, I have no excuses to put that above Super Mario Odyssey. Odyssey controls better, has better levels, has more memorable levels, and it's just a fun time overall. You control Mario in so many fun ways. There's so many different ways you can get moons and complete objectives. It's just so much fun. It's also Mario's nipples. Yes. The amount of costumes you get, the customization to your ship that you can have as stickers, statues, and shit. It's such a fun time, and such a love letter to all Mario games. It's so fucking great. New Donk City is easily the best level I've ever played in a game that just made me feel so hard. It warmed my heart so much. I had a dumb, stupid smile on my face playing through it the whole way. So fucking great. Now to transition to a game that's completely different in tone, Doom 2016. A very fun and powerful first-person shooter and a absolute love letter to the original Dooms. I'm very excited for Doom Eternal. The movement in the original Doom 2016 was fucking fantastic. I'm very sad the multiplayer died out so quickly. Multiplayer wasn't bad. It was very fun. There's a lot of customization things you can unlock, but it was just no one. It just died out so quickly, and that made me really sad. But the game itself is very great, and I highly recommend anyone go through it if you were a fan of fast-paced action first-person shooters. Wolf Among Us. I put this above the original Walking Dead for me just because I liked this concept a little more. I felt like it was a much more, I don't know, something about being a bunch of fables in a whole ass fairy tale universe. I just really enjoyed that. I thought it was really fucking cool. And I enjoyed playing throughout the whole damn thing. Now, obviously, the QTE stuff doesn't like hold up for me. I've kind of grown bored of the Telltale game QTE stuff for action, whatever, but it's still a very fun game. I love detective stories like that, and shit, it's fantastic. Press Q not to die, exactly. Portal 2 is a game I always go back to constantly. Going through, it's such, oh my god. Like, Portal 1 was such a game where you were just kind of doing puzzles with this robot mocking you in the background, and now they made Portal, and when they made Portal 2, it was such an emotional shift in tone that more so focused on, like, the lore of Aperture, the building that you're in. It's just like, it's such a shift in tone that it's so great. The puzzles in it are fantastic. It's so fucking... The characters are charming in it. Gladys is a bitch. Wheatley's an asshole. And you are still silent as hell, but it's so great. I love it so much. Best Valve game? I would honestly agree with that. Like with Left 4 Dead, at least with Left 4 Dead 2, yeah, it's got the replayability, but its story isn't nothing. As much as I love the game, the story isn't anything. At least with Portal 2, it's got replayability, multiplayer, and the fucking great thing. Portal 3 game or Left 4 Dead 3? Left 4 Dead 3 is supposedly in the works now. And it's VR, so that's gonna be weird. But that is Valve's big interest right now. Batman Arkham City, like Rep said, it's the best, in my opinion, of the Arkham games because it does the open world very well. It's an awesome story. It ends with such a fucking drastic tone that I, at the time, wasn't expecting. It's such a good game, and I highly recommend anyone play Arkham City. Play all these games, by the way. Play all of them.
Yeah.
Borderlands 2, it's a game I always go back. I always keep playing, and I'm pretty sure I've beaten it like 5 times this whole decade. Isn't Sekiro a close cut from the list? I never played Sekiro. I hear it's really good. I hear it's really good. I never played it. So it has no place on my list. But yeah, Borderlands 2, it's very fun, even if some of the dialogue is dated. It doesn't feel as ham-fisted or bad as Borderlands 3 because, well, Borderlands 2 has the excuse of being made in 2012. Borderlands 3 doesn't. But it's so fun. The classes are fun. It's fun to go through with friends. It's fun. Red Dead Redemption 2. I hated Red Dead Redemption 2. But that's because I didn't play Red Dead Redemption 1, and it's just slow and sluggish.
And Red Dead 2, it's an honorable mention for me for both Games of the Decade and Game of the Year. I like a lot of... What? Well, you know what I mean. Shut up. There's a lot of component parts about it I love, but its back half overexerts itself so much that it can't make it more than an honorable mention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Borderlands 2 is always fun to go back to and play. Fucking Gearbox did good embezzling that Sega money. Because, goddamn, Borderlands 2 is a good-ass fucking game. And, in my opinion, it still holds up really well. Like, I honestly prefer people go and play Borderlands 2 over Borderlands 3 if you haven't played any Borderlands game. Dragon Ball FighterZ is not only a Dragon Ball game with an actual original story that doesn't just retrace the steps of Z, but it's a beautiful love letter, not only for fighting games, for Dragon Ball games in general. Like, all Dragon Ball games have never really been good fighting games. They're always unbalanced. They are always, like, they're either very unbalanced or they're just not very fun. With fighters, every character is so fun. Like, they have their different gimmicks. They have their different shit. And it's all so fun and beautiful and done well. I'd mentioned the bullshit DLC prices, but every fighting game has bullshit DLC prices, so deal with that as you please. But Fighters is such a good game. And I still go back to it every now and then, but it's such a good game with a good story. And the story's not the best, but it's still a pretty good story for it being an original Dragon Ball story. I love Android 21. She's an awesome character, and I love Fighters so much. It's probably one of the first fighting games to actually get me into having a lot of games have bullshit DLC. Exactly, a lot of games have bullshit DLC crises now, so I'm not even going to mention it for this case, especially since it's not even like a very horrible offender. 5 characters for $20 ain't bad. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I love the Vor. Hey, Vor Queen is best girl. That's just the truth. Smash Bros. Ultimate, I play it all the time. It's just passing. I play it. And everyone's here. A Smash game with every character that's ever been in it? Hell fucking yes. And there's still characters getting added to it. It's so exciting to learn what new characters are getting added to it. It's so fucking good. Fire Pro Wrestling World, I don't like how that game plays, and it's a good simulation game. I don't care to play it.
Same. The concept of it, I've made edits for it, not particularly good ones, but I've done stuff for it. I can't get into it.
Yeah, I don't enjoy playing it, and I'm not a big simulation guy in general either. So, but Smash Brothers Ultimate, I play it all the time. Most of the characters are very fun to play as. I love learning characters. World of Light, for as monotonous and tedious and honestly boring as it is, now that I'm actually grinding through spirits for reasons I'll get into another time, it's still a fun time. Even if World of Light is no Subspace Emissary, the game itself is still fucking fantastic. The only thing that bogs it down is Nintendo's Online. But that's not Smash Brothers' fault. So, TW 2016 is this decade too? Yeah, I don't care about those kind of games in general.
I like TW, but I'm the kind of person where if I'm not doing it with a group of people, like, I haven't touched the game that I started with, like, Hitman and Andrew Everett and I think Milk. Of his games, like, I'm gonna take a good look at 2020. Hopefully I'll do something with that, because I like to do a lot of stuff in the universe that comes with it. But otherwise, I'm a bigger fan of the WMMA games. I have one on there that's like almost 10 years deep.
Moving on to Monster Prom. This is a game that I hold very near and dear to my heart. This is a visual novel game that has humor that is freshly modern. It's so good. It's tasteful humor. It can poke fun at somewhat controversial things, or it can like emulate controversial things in a tasteful manner, and it's so good. Its humor is fantastic. Its representation is fantastic. Monster Prom is such a very fun and good game. And it's honestly not, like, if you want to play it as a game to game for secret endings, it's not hard once you figure out how stats work. It's a very fun game to go through with your friends, to go through some random ridiculous bullshit story about trying to date a ghost. It's just so much ridiculous fun. And there's like so much of the secret endings you can tell have amazing writing putting into them. Personal touches added in there. There's one particular secret ending in the DLC, the second term DLC that you can get with Zoe, that absolutely warmed my heart. It touched me so much, and I'm very excited for Monster Prom 2 to come out in late 2020. I am very, very excited. You get to fuck a ghost, a werewolf, a robot, and Hojin Horror, and more. Exactly. If that doesn't like satiate your taste buds anymore, I don't know what will. It's such a very good game, and I highly recommend everyone playing. It's 50% off right now on Steam for the winter sale, I believe, is what I was told. And I'm sure its DLC is probably like 20% off or something. And it still gets updated every now and then. I don't know if it's going to keep getting updated after 2 releases, but hey, it's fucking fantastic, and everyone should play it. Devil May Cry 5, I kind of went over earlier. It's very accessible to anyone who wants to get into Devil May Cry series. It's a love letter to everything Devil May Cry. You get 3 whole ass different playstyles that are all very fun. Dante moves like a fucking dream. He has a great wide variety moveset. Nero has great fucking combos you can pull off and shit. And Nero, while very different, is also a very interesting playstyle and very fun and engaging to see the weird shit you can do with him. And the story is probably the most gripping it's ever been in a Devil May Cry game, if I'm being completely honest. 4 also had a very gripping story, but 5 fucking knocks it out of the park. It's so good. You can see the big twist coming from a mile away, obviously, but Devil May Cry games have never been big on stories to begin with. So the fact that this one has a great story is just incredible. Everyone, go out and play all of these games. My game of the decade, for me, has to be Monster Prom. It is a game that just hit me in such a way that I have never felt before. I have never felt so warmed and instilled with faith by a game before. Because in a time where there's been games that have been released, either like developers having some shitty views or some fucking cash cow microtransactions being thrown in, Monster Prom is such a great change for all of that. It's so fucking good. I highly recommend anyone play it. It's fucking great.
For me, if I had to call out one game on here as my top of the decade, I think it'd be the game I accidentally skipped out on talking about. Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is another game that made me cry. But it's also another game that it takes like a spirit that is intrinsically Zelda and then turns it into something that the Zelda series isn't. But it does it in such a way that it felt true to the spirit of the franchise. I am very interested to see where Breath of the Wild 2 takes it. And hopefully they take more lessons from that and less from shit like Skyward Sword. This would actually... Yeah, it would be the first actual sequel to a Zelda game since Adventure of Link, I believe. Or Link Between Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But first sequel to a console Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
First console sequel to a Zelda game.
Yeah, you can argue Majora's Mask, but that's more of a spin-off.
Yeah.
If anything, it's completely its own entity, just using the same assets.
But yeah, anyway.
Well,
if I had to suggest a game for you to get right now, it would be that if you have a Switch. And if not, then Spider-Man. Or maybe Skyrim. Todd's put it out on everything.
I definitely, if you have a Switch, get Smash Brothers. If you have anything else, get Devil May Cry 5, get Monster Prom.
Okay, maybe
Get
Majora
Yakuza
is a
0.
sequel. I just don't want to admit I'm wrong.
I suppose, yeah, it does take place right after that.
And it's implied the friend Link's looking for in it is Navi.
So,
Okay, so the first sequel to a fucking Zelda game in 3 years.
it's the first
Shut
one
up.
with a 2 in it, damn it.
No, because Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
We don't talk about that.
We got anything else to say?
I'm... Buy
You kind of cut out there?
Monster Prom. That's all I have to say.
Seconded. Buy Monster Prom, and if you love it, donate to their Kickstarter if it's still available.
I don't think so.
Well, then wishlist it or
Yeah,
Follow
wishlist it. Wishlist Monster Prom 2. And then what do we do?
I mean, honestly, we could just probably call it here. It's been about 2.5 hours. I don't know if the others are done watching their show, but I figure worst case scenario, after tomorrow, I've got several days off in a row, unfortunately.
See, I don't have a day off till Thursday, so...
Oh, fuck, you don't even get this Tuesday off?
Nope, I'm working New Year's Eve.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose that's the payback for you getting Tuesday, Christmas, and today off.
No, it's just because we're open New Year's Eve, because New Year's Eve was a moneymaker for us last year.
Well, I mean, just like in a not karmic sense, but
Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess.
maybe. Okay, you don't die during that.
I'll try not to.
But yeah, I'll probably do something over the course of the next week. And I will let you guys know when I do. Is there anyone we can raid?
I got no one.
I also have no. It's either Bob Ross or fucking Impact.
So no one.
Yeah, just go to bed.
Go to bed, everyone.
Your parents miss you. Bye.
Bye-bye.